we had like acres and acres and acres and acres of marijuana. And at that time, the DEA started getting these little planes and flying low to try to spot people's crops. And, well, they spotted mine, and I shot the plane. And, it didn't take very long, a few hours. And next thing you know, the FBI, DEA, they're all at my house, arrested me.
All right, on today's show, we have Dr. Joseph Lephiew. He's a founder and senior pastor of Destiny Center International, an entrepreneur, a father, grandfather, right?
Yes.
My father-in-law and my pastor. Welcome to the show.
Hey, it's my privilege and honor to be here.
So I have, I've been in your guys' lives for like 15 years now. Right.
Has it been 15 years?
Maybe 16.
Time flies.
Time flies. It's crazy. But, I wanted to bring you on the show so people can get to see you, and then get your input, from a pastoral stance on life and just kind of from what the Bible says to what people think to, how you've implemented certain things in your life, because everybody goes through different things.
Sure. And
some people just don't know how to get through those challenges the right way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
A lot of times I'll ask people what happened when they were a child, but we know you've had a rough childhood.
Sure.
I think, when was your dad killed?
Well, when I was 10 years old.
So when you were 10 years old, your dad was killed.
Yeah, they put a contract on him and killed him.
So you're 10 years old, and your dad dies. What were you close to him at that point? Or are you kind of not close to him, like seeing him every other week or every weekend? Or
no, actually I only seen him twice in my life.
Yeah,
I seen him one time. He came to visit, and the second time I seen him was in the casket.
How did so you seen him twice, and then the second time you see him, it's like that's it. All these thoughts in your mind of possibly having a dad, knowing of him. How did that feel?
Well, the thing is I didn't even have a concept of a father.
Yeah.
I kind of grew up between my my mom was a single parent, and I kind of bounced around between her and my grandparents. So it all depended on what was going on in her life. So usually my grandparents would step in and kind of take over, and then she would pop kind of back in, and then that was kind of our life for many years. Just go back and forth.
Yeah. What's crazy is a lot of people are raised by their grandparents.
Yeah, especially in today's day.
It's crazy. Even when I was younger, I had I'd say probably 15%, 20% of friends at that time, their grandparents were raising them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I don't know. I mean, kudos for grandparents, because if they fail as parents, they get to redo it as...
Yeah, but it's tough when you get older, So
can't move around.
Yeah. Well, my grandparents were clueless. It's like I could sneak out of the house. They didn't even have a clue about
they're like,
anything was going on. So
let's trust little Joey.
Yeah, little Joey was gone.
He's okay. Lord be with him. He's gone.
I'd sneak back in at 3 a.m. Yeah.
What's that noise? Oh, nothing, Grandma.
Yeah.
Just getting some water. Just walked in.
Yep.
So you lose your father at 10, but you really don't know who he is, which sucks anyways, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have your mom, was raising you, your grandma was raising you. So from 10 to, I know you went to the military. How old were you when you went to the military?
17.
So how'd you end up going to the military?
Well, I basically kind of started doing the same type of business, the illegal business that my father was involved in, without even knowing him. We were big time drug distributors. And I was 17 years old. I was the boss, and at that time, they started coming in with little planes, and we had like acres and acres and acres and acres of marijuana. And at that time, the DEA started getting these little planes and flying low to try to spot people's crops. And well, they spotted mine, and I shot the plane. And, it didn't take very long, a few hours. And next thing you know, the FBI, DEA, they're all at my house, arrested me. And
This is in the 70s?
yeah. Let's see. No, yes. Yeah, I got to think about it. Yeah. No, it was probably in the, 79. Probably, yeah. But yeah, the late 70s or early 80s. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you shoot out the plane. Everybody's after you.
Yeah. And so then I go to court, and the men that work for me, they gave them all 10 years prison. And then the judge looks at me. Now, you got to understand, this is back in the South, Arkansas, Louisiana. And the judge looks at me and he says, boy, a 17-year-old has a 1-year life expectancy in these prisons. And I thought I was cocky. I mean, I had an attitude. I could fight, take on the world. And he looks at me and he says, no. And this is like a few years after Vietnam. So nobody's going in the military. And the judge says, you got 3 days to sign up, bring the paperwork showing that you signed up in the military. So I'm like, this is easy peasy. So first thing I went to the Marines, and I thought, man, I'm going to go, fight, because that's what I like doing.
Yeah.
So the Marines, they pull up my record, and I have a record as long as an old man. So they're like, get out of here. We got enough of your kind. I went to the Army, same thing. And the Air Force is like, not a chance. And so I'm thinking, I'm going to prison. So I stopped at the Navy, and the Navy guy's like, yep, sign right here. And I'm like, well, why will you take me when nobody else wants me? He says, well, you're on a ship out in the middle of the ocean, and you mess up. Where are you going to go?
Yeah.
And so exactly right. So I basically spent a lot of years around the world in a lot of different brigs, because I was still doing a lot of bad stuff.
Yeah.
And but yeah, that's how I got into the military.
So you were in the Navy,
Mm-hmm.
and was there any major wars? There was no major wars. Huh? Some small wars.
There was just small things, like we had when the Iranian first Khomeini and all that stuff was out there, we were bombing and different things and getting bombed and different stuff. But it was never like a full-fledged blown war.
Yeah. What so you get in the military, and we'll get back to the military, because I want to get on that topic. And so that's how you met your wife, my mother-in-law, right? We were in the military.
Yeah, I was actually back stateside, and I was stationed at a naval air base in Lemoore, California.
Where's that at?
It's up near Fresno, Visalia, up in what they call the San Joaquin Valley,
So
in
like
the northern
okay.
California. Yeah. And so there was a club there, a bar, club dance. It was back in disco days. And so when you would always see a lot of guys and then a lot of women, but when the ship would leave, they used to call the women, they would call them sea widows. The wives would all go to the club. And so, for a girl, I mean, think about it. You could go in there and be like, 10 guys to one girl. That was kind of the ratio on a military base.
Yeah.
And so she walked in with a bunch of her friends, and I had the only table. And so that's kind of how we met. I actually let them sit there when I wouldn't let anybody else sit there.
You're all grumpy.
I was angry.
Mad at the world.
I was mad at the world. I'd just get drunk, and all I do is fight. That's kind of what my lifestyle was.
Yeah. When I was younger, Paul used to always say, "Why are you so mad at the world?"
Yeah. Well, everything that happens to you as a kid.
You just start getting mad at everybody.
The one thing that I hated was I hated seeing a normal family.
Mm-hmm.
I hated seeing a father like throwing a football to his kid.
It still bothers me today.
Yeah, it does. It's like, because you look at that stuff and like, wow, I never got that. I never had that experience.
Yeah.
I mean, my mom would bring home her guys, but it was never about me. It was always they were doing it just because they wanted to be with her.
Well, not only that is, I mean, you got to know them for 5 days and then they're gone.
They're gone. Exactly.
You're like, hey,
that's about right.
Where's Joe?
There's no
He's
daddy
gone. This
here.
is Bob now. This is a different guy.
And then it was crazy because it would be like people I knew, like my boxing coach or my basketball coach. Or I'm like, hey, I would spot these guys at our home, and I'm like, this something.
Then that becomes embarrassing.
Yeah,
huh?
very. Yeah,
because now kids know what's going on. They're making fun of you.
Exactly.
Your mom's with the coach, and now she's with the teacher.
Now she's with the police.
That's funny.
Now, the one good thing about my mom is I can give her this credit. She said she would never fornicate, so she wouldn't sleep with them. They had to marry her.
Yeah.
So she had, lots and lots of marriages. So I think there's 10 marriages. Yeah.
That's faithful.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bible says
she did have a little some biblical training.
Yeah. She didn't read the part where you got to kind of make it work out.
Yeah, exactly.
She's like, I'm out. Off to the next one. So you go through the military, you get married, and at what point do you start saying, because I think this is a transition for people that needs to happen more often than not, is the transition into becoming like a believer,
Yeah.
Because people have that, they're afraid, they hear, and not only that, as kids, I think most kids have went to some sort of church, then they see the hypocrite, that stature of the hypocrite in the church.
Yeah.
And then for years, you kind of live with that until you figure out, well, maybe they're not hypocrites, I'm the same way.
Yeah.
But like, how did that lead you into church? And, because it's a big part of who you are.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to take you back a little bit to the day that my father was, they did a funeral. And I'm 10 years old and I'm standing there. I'm fascinated because he's cold. He's frozen, so to speak,
Yeah.
And I'm a little kid. I'm 10 years old and I'm touching him. And behind me were these 4 women. They were like, I call them church women, but Pentecostal. They had the big bun, no makeup. And they're behind me. And here's what they were saying. They kept saying, look at him. He's the devil's child. He don't even cry for his father. And they kept saying it over and over and over. And I look at them and I'm like, they're talking about me. But I don't know the guy in the coffin. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know they call him my dad, my father, but I don't know him. But the thing is, I walked away that day as a little kid, and it kept burning in my ears. You're the devil's child. You're the devil's child. And what happened is this is how powerful words are. People don't realize how powerful they are. I literally became that word. Mm. So I did things. I did lots of bad things. I mean, lots of bad things. And what it was is those words were always in the back of my mind. So it didn't matter if I shot someone. It didn't matter if I stabbed someone. It didn't matter if I took someone's wife. Nothing mattered to me. I had no feeling. I had nothing. And because those words just reverberated through my whole life up until I believe I was in the military, and I had, I must say this, is my girlfriend was Yvonne, who's my wife today, of almost 38, 39 years. She convinced me to go to a church because she knew I was crazy. They were locking me up. Mm-hmm. I had done
just trying to get an exorcism done.
Well, she tried doing that herself. We were living together, and I'd wake up in the middle of the night, and she'd be like trying to cast out the devils.
Yeah.
And but I had done a lot of bad things. But the key though was I was a great worker, and I was very knowledgeable at what I did. So because of what I did, the military at that time, they were losing so many people to drugs, alcohol, violence, and they were trying to figure out a way to stop it, because they're putting all this money into these young people. But you're taking them overseas, and overseas, when you go to like Asia and different countries, you have everything in the world's there. And so all of a sudden, you got all these junkies and people that are in the military. Mm-hmm. And so the military is trying to figure a way to stop it. So basically, they picked me to be the poster child, if I can say it like that. And because I could be an amazing worker, I would do my job. I mean, I was an amazing worker, and I knew what I was doing. But the moment that I would start drinking or doing drugs, what it would do is the hate would come out. And I remember them. They forced me, so they brought in 4 psychoanalysts and psychologists to study me, because they were going to create a program that they could help, young people in the military to get off of drugs and different things. But see, drugs and alcohol was never the problem. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the byproduct. It's what grows out of the problem. But the problem is what's the root, what's underneath the surface of someone's life. See, we turn to drugs, we turn to alcohol, we turn to porno, we turn to gambling, whatever. People turn to all these different, things that, whatever, to try to find some sense of relief. But the key is, what's the root?
Yeah.
And I went through all these different sessions, and here's what happened. My girlfriend took me to this little church. I didn't want to go there. I said, she promised me, I said, if I go to this church, you're going to let me get high, let me get drunk, because they're locking me up the next day.
Yeah.
And she goes, yes, I'll get you everything, whatever you want, as long as you go to church. I had the most amazing encounter of my life with the Lord. Mm-hmm. Now, I knew nothing about God. I knew nothing about the Bible. Matter of fact, my great-great-grandfather was a pastor, and they kicked me out of the church because I was too violent. Think of that. So I don't know nothing. And so what happened was Yvonne takes me to this little church, and I go in there, and I'm everybody in there is like 75 years and older. So Yvonne and I look like babies walking into this church. There's about 200 people, and they're all staring at us. So you got to imagine, I got earrings flying everywhere out of my ear, and I got a gun, knives. I got all this stuff on me because I walked around like that. And they're just, and I remember cussing out all these old ladies because they kept staring at me. And I'm sitting on the back, and I'm just angry because, like, why did she talk me into going to this church? And I remember putting my head down. Now, you got to imagine this. It was all of a sudden, it was like I was at this movie theater, and my head's down. I'm not paying attention to nothing, and the curtain's open. And all of a sudden, I'm watching the screen in my mind at that moment, and I can see images of growing up as a kid. Things happen. I can see me dragging bodies around. I mean, I can see stuff that nobody should ever see as a kid. I'm seeing it, and I'm playing back all these things. And then all of a sudden, at the very end, I jump up, and the preacher's giving an altar call, like, do you want to accept Jesus as your Savior? And I'm like, and I don't even know where I'm at. And I felt something like grab my shirt and literally pick me up. And the moment I stood up, now you have to understand, the day that my dad, when I was there at his funeral, I never cried another tear after what those old ladies told me. I never cried. I don't care what you did. I never shed a tear, never did anything. And now all of a sudden, the moment I stand up, tears start running out my eyes, and I can't control it. Now, this is funny for a church. So I get up, and I start running down to where the pastor is. Well, the pastor and his folks, they get scared. They think I'm going to hurt them. So they literally run off the stage. They run off the stage, and there's a chair at the top and a big cross. I run up there, and I'm yelling, screaming. I'm on my knees, and of course I'm cussing. I'm saying everything like, God, if you effing real, I'm doing all this stuff. And all of a sudden, I don't know what happened, but I stop, and I have this overwhelming sense of like, I know God. And I stood up, I walked down, and I'm standing at the front of the steps. Now the pastor and them, they're all gone. They just take off. Yeah. The old people get up, and they all start walking up like on both sides of me to touch me. I mean, it was like that movie, where Jesus gets baptized, and the dove comes down on him, and you hear the angel singing, So it was that experience. That was the beginning of the change in my life. And here's what I realized that day is when I was watching that movie, what happened was, the reason I never cried is because I shoved everything in. But God let me see my life, my real life, the stuff that I had blocked, the stuff that I had hidden, the stuff that I had suppressed. He let me see my life through his eyes. How filthy, how dirty, how mean, how nasty, how hateful that I really was as a person. And it broke me. And that was the day, that was the beginning of the change of my whole life.
It's like he showed you the truth.
The real, I mean, it was like a truth that would, I mean, imagine if you've been suppressing it. You think you're a great guy, and you've been suppressing everything for 20, 30 years. And then all of a sudden one day you see like what God sees.
The truth.
The truth. And that truth broke me.
It set you free.
It did set me free.
That's that saying, huh? The truth
it is the truth. As the Bible said, the truth will set you free. And I actually could feel again. I mean, now I can't control it because I can be watching a little show with my granddaughters, and if it's a girly flick and I'm crying, and they're all looking at me and staring at me like, look at your grandpa, he's over there crying. But I can feel.
So what year was that?
Oh, God.
Early 80s?
Yeah, it was the mid 80s, probably about
84?
86. Let's see, we got 85. No, it was before that. It was probably about in 84.
So since 84, you've been in the church?
Yeah.
And then when did you guys get married?
In December 7th in 1985. 85.
So you get married, and you guys just instantly in the church?
Yeah, we immediately get involved. Well, I walk in and I tell this pastor that I want to serve God and get me something to do, and he hands me. I guess he thought I was kind of a jerk or a smart aleck or whatever. So And I probably was. So he hands me a toilet brush. And that was my first job in the church. Was I cleaned the toilets for 3 years. Whatever they wanted. I didn't care because my whole life had been like turned inside out.
Yeah.
I went from no feeling, hating, to like actually excited about life, loving life, and that kind of thing.
And so you're in church, you get involved, they give you a job. I see, like at church, throughout the years, I've seen people that don't even want to help with anything, right?
Yeah.
Or they complain about something, or but I think like for me, at church, I'll work just because it takes my mind off of like life, like the everyday struggle or hustle or whatever, because like, okay, it's just me and what I'm doing. I think sometimes there's a mindset that's in people in our world today, and it's almost like the world thinks it's the world, somebody owes them something. And it's sad because they won't ever experience really what God has for them. Because they're waiting for somebody to give them something. Well, like we said, it's living like you got to see the truth. Is when people are living lies, they don't get to see the truth. So
exactly,
they don't even know what the truth, like the lie is there, and they're, until they give in to that lie and learn the truth, what it is and who it is, and I think that's why people should give themselves to God, is because the truth comes out, like, and you can handle it easier.
For sure.
Because there's all these, we have, like, I have a lot of crap too, right? And so it's like, but like you said, is once I gave myself to God, there was something that opened up and released. And so I think a lot more people need that. Even there's a lot of professional people, wealthy people. That, we were doing, when I was doing the stuff with Bobby Castro, and that guy's worth like hundreds of millions of dollars, and he just became a Christian. I can't imagine what he's been holding on to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. He's married for years, kids, super successful. But there's those lies because once you give yourself to God, you kind of release it all.
Sure.
And like, okay, it's like free, like you're floating. Like stuff's still gonna come at us, but like it's just a burden off your back.
It's almost like you can imagine when they used to call it spring cleaning when we were growing up. So they would, open up when the beginning of spring, they'd open up all the windows and they would air out everything, and they would dust, and they would, take furniture out and that kind of thing. So they were going to do a whole, like a freshness, And I think that's what it is in life, is that, especially if you've lived, because we live in a world people live dual lives. So then all of a sudden when you're open up and now you allow the freshness, the healing. And, because imagine, we're going to always deal with stuff. Because, we live in a world, we're human, and we live in this flesh, so we're going to have to deal with stuff. Just because I'm a Christian or a believer doesn't mean that I won't be tempted, doesn't mean that I won't fail or fall, because those are all real stuff. But the creative God created something in us that says, hey, I do have an answer for you when you do fall. I will give you the strength to get back up. I can show you how to restore, renew, remake, repent, whatever, but I can show you how to get it back together. And that's what most people don't have, is when they go down, they usually stay down. Because they don't have anything else. That's why we live in a world where people literally commit suicide and do some things in their lives because they don't see any other answer. They don't see another way out.
Because the burden's so heavy.
Exactly.
They're not giving it to nobody.
That's right. And they carry it, and what happens? Too much.
What do you like? I was listening. We were listening to Sadie Robertson. Felicity was, Willie Robertson's daughter, and she was. They were interviewing her, and she was talking about how, because she's getting really big, like she's really big.
Gosh.
She's traveling, speaking, all that stuff. But she was saying she gets a lot of hate, and she was talking about how people. I think she went to Disneyland, or she's letting the kids watch Disney movies or whatever, and they were posting this stuff, or they had a Disney party or whatever it was. And she said just people were hating on her, like Christians, right? And you see like what like in Christianity, there's Christianity, and then there's say Catholicism, there's the Mormons, there's there's all these different religions. And someone is always hating on someone for doing something that they think is right or wrong.
Yeah.
What's your take on that too? Where, like she was literally being judged. They were saying, hey, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. So they were condemning her for doing something that wasn't hurting nobody.
Yeah.
But they were condemning her. Like, what's your thought on that?
Well, I think the number. Well, first, let me say it like this: is that no matter what, anytime you're a leader, anytime you're in the forefront, anytime that you're leading, and the people behind you, they're going to always criticize you. They're going to always find fault with you, because it's a lot easier for people who are not doing anything to find fault with you that are doing something. And and it's almost like someone told me one day, says, when you're running, you're going to have people behind you always saying stuff. The key is you don't turn around, because they're going to be there. Haters are going to be there no matter what. Some people call them the naysayers. And, I've been scrutinized for everything from music to, me and my wife, we love to dance. And they're like, oh, Pastor, you go dance? Yeah. And they're not playing Christian music when we're dancing, right? So, you can look at all these different things. And I think if we would really get back to really the way we should be living is we should major, because what happens, people focus their whole life on the minors. And what we should do is just focus on the majors, because on the minor things of life, everybody's going to have different opinions and different thoughts. So whether it's like watching Harry Potter or not watching Harry Potter, whether it's have a glass of wine or not have a glass of wine, do you know what I'm saying? We can go all day, whether go to the casino or not go to the casino. Do you know what I'm saying? The thing is even the Bible says do all this stuff in moderation, but yet I think it's when you draw a line, then the problem is, because the Bible says you got to be careful when you judge someone, because you're going to also be under the same judgment. So I think that, we do live in a world where people are very religious, and what's crazy is a lot of these people that are saying all this stuff, they don't see the issues in their lives. That's why the Bible says, it says, pull out the beam out of your own eye before you try to pull a speck out of someone else's eye. In other words, basically, is we should be focused on ourselves.
Yeah, quit looking at everyone else.
Exactly. Well, if you're building your life, you're not looking at anybody else. And the thing is because if you look at anybody, look at every politician, every actor, you're going to find fault, because they're not all going to be. And the sad thing is usually what happens is it's all this negative energy that creates a negativity that creates division. What we should be doing is saying, you know what? I'm not going to worry about the little things. Yeah. I'm going to focus on the major things. Do you believe that Jesus is the Savior? Do you believe in salvation? Those are the things, you know what I'm saying, that we do. We believe the Word of God is true. Okay, all this other stuff, I had a great mentor years ago. He used to tell me, he said, the Bible's like an old dog. He said, you can make it do whatever you want it to do. And what he meant was, when you read it, people can read it and make it and interpret it to be whatever they want it to be. And
good or bad.
Good or bad, exactly.
Yeah, good or bad.
So it's like, why not just do good, do the best that you can, and if someone say, pray for them. But you don't. It's crazy, but we get up there and we beat each other. And you look at some of these other groups in the world. The reason that they're so powerful, especially the LGBT, whatever they're called, that group is so powerful, even though they're the smallest group in the world. And they did a study and they found out, why are they so strong? Well, here's why. They only focus on the major agenda. They don't divide themselves on all these other little petty things. Yeah. And so what they do is they have a powerful voice, even though they're the smallest group of people. And yet Christianity, we are probably one of the largest groups or the largest bodies, but because we're so fractioned, we're so divided. Yeah. So we can't seem to pull everything together, because everybody wants to divide rather than say, let's just be united and say, let's fight together. Let's take our forces together and not worry about, is macaroni and cheese godly or not? If you think it is, eat it. There's stories in the Bible where they talked about that David ate, food that was dedicated to God, and he's like, well, I'm hungry. There's tons of scriptures where it talks about they did things. The The religious people used to get mad at Jesus because his disciples didn't wash their hands, or Jesus healed on the Sabbath, or Jesus ate with the wrong type of people. And Jesus wasn't concerned because they were always going to hate on him. They were going to always, he's over there eating with the sinners. Well, he wasn't just hanging out. He was trying to win them to the kingdom. He had an agenda.
Yeah.
But I mean, how are you going to win people if you're so against everything that they do?
You're standoffish and you're judging them.
Yeah, for sure.
So I was watching this other podcast, and it was Muslims, and this kind of ties in, and there were like kind of extremist type, and then normal type, and then guys that are going against it type thing, and what they were talking about was how I think it's the Quran is their book, right? The Quran.
Yeah, the Quran.
And so, there were, because people will say, "Oh, Muslim." When you think of a Muslim, you think of some terrorist guy or something like that, which is just a very, very minority part of that, and because a part of that is, and are judged the same thing by the world, though, not just the religion. The whole world judges them, because one part of the Bible says you do this, right? And then you got the rest of the Bible that says just do your best, right?
Love, yeah.
What do you think, like, when you have these different religions and they start to, look at each other, or the world looks at them, and, there's differences in each religion.
Yeah.
One versus the other. What would you say is like the similarities? Because they're all going to get judged. We're all getting, everybody's getting judged. Everybody's judging everybody.
Well, I think the biggest thing is that, the scripture says that there's only one way to God or one way to heaven, and that was Jesus.
Yeah.
And he says, so as long as I use that, I share my faith with people. I've talked with Muslims. I've talked to Jehovah's Witnesses. I've talked to atheists. I had an atheist guy that lived across the street from us when we bought this house up north. And the amazing thing was when he found out I was a pastor, oh my God, he would mock me, make jokes at me. And what I did was I kept loving him, like talking nice to him, cracking jokes with him. And what was funny was after about a year and a half, the guy fell in love with me and my family. Now he's a bona fide, proud atheist.
Yeah.
And yet, he started bringing gifts, birthday gifts to all my kids. He would do things, and he would bring us food. I mean, he just fell in love with us. And because I didn't beat him up with my mouth or my beliefs, I shared my beliefs, but I shared them in a way that it helped maybe make him think instead of where it put him on the defensive.
Yeah.
So it's like if you're trying to shove something down someone's throat. What does a baby do when you're trying to force feed it?
It'll spit it out.
It'll spit it out, or it'll close its mouth.
Yeah, it's not going to.
So it's not going to receive what you have. So you can't make people believe. That's why the Bible talks about that. It's the love that people are going to see. If they see that you got something that's real, they're more open to listen to you.
Yeah.
And I've shared with Muslims. I mean, I've sat with I used to have some of my Jewish co-workers, people in the diamond industry. They would literally bring me in there to talk to all of their workers.
Yeah.
They're Jewish. They don't even believe in Jesus.
So, well, like, speaking of that, is, because you always hear the same thing. Do you think every religion should get along? Because there's always that argument. Well, Jesus, no Jesus.
Yeah. Well, here's what I think. I think everybody should get along.
I think they should all become
even
one.
Even if we don't have the same beliefs. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, in other words, like, it's like this, like vegetarians or vegans.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not going to put them down because they don't want to eat meat.
Yeah.
But I probably won't have dinner with them.
Yeah.
I mean, or if I do, I'm going to have my meat as long as they can sit down and have their vegetables. In other words, I believe that we are big enough to have just differences and disagreements, but yet if we can agree on what's the main thing. Do you know what I'm saying?
So it's like, what's the main thing?
Well, the main thing to me is God and faith, love, hope. These are the things that, Jesus said these things. I mean, Jesus, he spent time with so many different kinds of people. I mean, if you think about it, and his agenda was to win them, was to reach them.
Yeah.
And if he could, wonderful. And if he couldn't, he didn't like beat them up. As a matter of fact, there's only one class of people in the Bible that Jesus ever got really kind of nasty with, and it was religious people. It was the Pharisees and the Sadducees.
Well, because they were judging everybody.
Those are the ones. Those are the only ones that he got so furious and so upset at. Was those ones, not the people that had no belief, not the people that were ungodly or worshipped idols, because those are our goal. Those people are the people that we want to reach if we have that opportunity.
Yeah, they don't know nobody.
They don't exactly
show them a different way.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. If you go into different countries, you go into like some of this down in South Africa, they have, or go down the Amazon where they had the headhunters. I have friends that are literally down there that have churches and ministries down there reaching these people that have lived a certain life their whole life and never, ever heard about God or Jesus or anything.
Yeah.
Right? So they imagine how you have to share with those folks.
Yeah.
They're like, they want to shrink your head or something,
I wonder what what Jesus and some of those other guys would think about today's world. How it is today. You got talking about what how the military is changing to LGBTQ, whatever it's called after that, all that stuff. It's it's just so different.
Well, you know what it is? It's what happens is the cultures, all the different cultures are splitting up. And if you really look what's going on in the world today, one is there's a how would I say this? There's a Christ attitude and an unchrist attitude. So like an antichrist attitude. In other words, if you look what's going on, especially right now in the school system.
Yeah.
So you have people now that are pushing for it should be okay to be a pedophile.
Oh my God!
It's everywhere right now. I mean, it's everywhere. Or you got these libraries that are allowing drag queens to go in there and read to the children, but yet they will fight a Christian. Like what's his name? I forgot the young man's name, but he's got a book, and he's they've been fighting him not to let him into the library to read a family book to children. But they'll have drag queen, reading. And that's okay. So you see that there's this dark side in our world that's trying to push that dark mentality and belief into. Now, here's where it starts. It's starting in the children.
Yeah, that's the attack.
Because if you can get the children and you can inundate them or brainwash them or however you want to call it, but if you get them to say it's okay, it's all right. I mean, today I was reading some of the statistics today that a lot of these children, they don't know that. I mean, they're still trying to figure, do you call me a boy or girl?
Yeah.
Now it's like I heard somebody say that day, so if I call myself a fish, does everybody have to call me a fish? It was a guy making an argument.
Yeah.
And basically the belief in our world today is that, yes, if you want to be a fish. I seen this is no lie. I seen this the other day. A guy, he wanted to be a dog.
Yeah.
So he had this massive, expensive dog suit made, and all day long somebody leads him around like he's a dog.
See, I think that guy should be in a psych ward because he's not
something.
He's cuckoo.
I seen a video. They're walking him down the street, and he's laying there, and they're scratching him, and I'm like, but you know what it is our world. Because if you take God out. The world doesn't have any kind of identity.
There's nothing to stand for.
There's no standard. Yeah. There's no nothing. So what happens is it's kind of like in the Bible where they had what was the city that was destroyed because they were doing everything. In other words, they didn't have any beliefs. And if you take out any kind of standard, and you don't have a belief, you don't have anything that says this is the standard of us to live by, that means that everything and anything is acceptable. And then that's a very dangerous and scary world. So if I go to the communist country, communism is the control.
Yeah, but that's a lot better than what America is doing.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, at least they forced them all to believe one thing.
There's one thing.
Yeah.
Right. It may not be good, but it's not like some agenda where you can be whatever you want. And
that's the danger right now. But that's why I think it was China made a statement when they said they don't have to storm the borders of America to take over. they'll take over from within.
Yeah.
Because basically, as our world is already dividing. So it's imagine if we're dividing and fighting about this and that, then there's all these openings and nobody's really kind of guarding the gate.
Yep. And so when you take God out, like, do you take him out of the schools?
Well, they did years ago. Remember, they started taking the Bible out of
the Bible
prayer,
and then the anthem,
the prayer.
Anthem.
I remember as a kid having to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Every morning.
Yeah, they took that out.
So now,
I don't know. They do. I'm sure they do it sometimes, but I don't. Maybe they don't have to do it.
It's allowed now, and it's even allowed to have prayer. But again, but a lot of these schools, because if they're government funded, the government says if you do this, then we'll take the funds.
So and if you can't stand for something good, then you're gonna fall for everything
and anything. Yeah, exactly.
And then it's just causing problems, because it's no different. It's no different. What's happening right now with sexuality is no different than the drug crisis in the 80s.
Yes.
Or the
60s when they were like, was it sex, drugs, and rock and roll?
Yeah. Well, when the 80s was crack and stuff, but because I'm an 80s kid, but it's no different.
Yeah.
Because all those people ended up a mess. That drugged up, whatever decade it was, drugged up, locked up, or dead because they didn't know who they were. Mm-hmm. And so now you have a whole different generation of people who don't know who they are.
Yeah. So what happens if you don't have any identity?
You're gonna fall for anything and everything, and you're a mess.
So you end up trying to grab onto something,
and you're never satisfied. There's no way to grow because there's no foundation to grow off of. So God's our foundation.
Exactly.
So it's like trying to build a building in the middle of a pool.
Yeah. Well, it's like these there's a few organizations where they actually like go out in the boonies somewhere and they make a commune.
Yeah.
And they basically create their own rules. But what happens? You find that usually all of those things always fall apart because they don't have a real basis, a real foundation that's solid. Mm-hmm. And if you have a world where you can do anything, imagine a world with no laws, no rules. It's chaos.
Chaos. That's those movies, The Purges.
Remember those? Yeah.
They're all killing each other, looking after.
Exactly.
And that's what's happening is everyone's after each other.
Yeah.
It's like a feast frenzy.
And you want to tear apart each other so that you can either get one up or feel like you're on top of them or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's what's good though about the other countries is like a lot of the stuff's not allowed. Even though there's more rules and the chances of becoming wealthy are slim to none and all those things are against you, you're still like there's still man and woman.
Yeah, I forgot what country it was. I think it was Korea, North Korea, where they banned homosexual singers, actors from performing. They don't allow them on TV. I think it's them. I could be wrong. But so when they did the interview and they're asking why, and they said because they're finding that all it does is tear down masculinity. Mm-hmm. So then all of a sudden, it's like a family, like the family unit. When you tear down the man, there's no foundation. That's one of the problems in our world today is we have so many women, single moms that are running the homes, and there's no male figure.
Yeah.
And, and the male is, the provider, the protector. So when there's no provider, protector, what happens?
That's exactly right. It's kind of like the Three Little Pigs.
Exactly.
You got a straw house. It's gonna blow it down.
Come up and puff and
it's
blow
easy
your
to blow it down, right?
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing with the masculinity. It's like because it's the guys really that are getting affected by this, not the women. It's the guys. Mm-hmm. So you take the masculinity. Now you're taking the dads, the future dads, the future military guys, the future everything.
Yeah, it's like dominoes, right? When they start falling, it's like you don't know where it's going to end.
Well, then you end up. So think about this. So think about like China's our biggest threat. So if we have a bunch of guys that don't know who they are, right? And it's a big difference between being gay and what's happening today.
Sure, for sure.
Yeah, right? Because gay people have been around forever.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had gay family members. We do.
Yeah, for sure.
But when you don't know who you actually are, that's a whole other ballgame. And then you can go and let them put them in the military with the woke military. And then so think about China. They're just looking like, hey, guys, pretty soon the whole, they're going to have a fleet of carriers, aircraft carriers in the middle of the ocean. They don't know who they are. So we'll just drive right past them because they're just going to be looking at each other trying to figure out.
Still trying to figure things out, right? Yeah.
It's like you said, it's crumbling from within.
Well, it's like imagine you're on a trip and you have no map, you have no direction.
Yeah.
You're just going to go in circles. You're not going to actually make progress.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what's happening in our world. We're just running in circles.
Yeah. And what's going to happen is it's just going to go right back to, it's going to all cycle out because it's a phase.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll cycle out to back to normal gay people, which is fine.
Yeah.
Normal lesbian people.
Well, you know what it is eventually it's going to cycle out. But here's what happens is after a while, when the damage is done.
That's the problem.
Then we have to go back and start all over and pick everything back up.
And fix it. And, people want to get reversal transplants and the mental damage.
Oh, yeah.
Because the mental damage, think about the kid is 3 years old. He's getting damaged today.
Yeah.
At 30, even if he figures out, okay, I know who I am, he's still messed up.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's no different. Like I said, it's almost a worse epidemic than drugs.
Sure.
People are blaming fentanyl for killing people.
Mm-mm.
Maybe a lot of people are still alive, but if you're walking around saying you're a fish or a dog and you're half man, half woman thing,
yeah, exactly.
That's worse than fentanyl because you're still. I don't know. I don't want to. It's crazy. Anyways, yeah, but so, and it affects the church, right?
Yeah, it
affects the family. But so hopefully we'll get back to.
Well, I forgot who it was, but years ago, one of the presidents said these words back in them. One of the earlier presidents, he made a statement. He says, when the American home breaks down, the nation breaks.
Yeah.
And really that's what you're kind of seeing what's happening right now in our world is, and again, if you actually are a normal father, wife, husband, it's almost looked at in a weird way because it's not the norm anymore.
Yeah.
So it's like, and it's almost our world of the media especially, they blast it to try to, because the media wants to literally create the soundbite, so to speak. They want to create the images so that people will believe them. And so it's like you see this, everything from adoption to everything that's going on in our world today. But again, it's breaking down. It's not building up. It's not creating a strong, powerful force in our world.
Yeah, yeah. So how do we work on that? With all these things going on and.
Well, I think the thing that what I see that we should do is number one. It's like somebody said you need to be the difference that you want to see in the world. So we start with us, and then what we do is from there we begin to share. Because I think if you become the best dad that you can be, or the best husband that you can be, or the best whatever, and then all of a sudden that's going to pass on.
Yeah.
Because see, more is caught than taught. Yeah. So that's why it's like, instead of walking, like I'm not a guy that, like, I tell people all the time, I'm not wearing a big giant cross, and I'm not putting all these bumper stickers, all these things on my car about Jesus. I choose to just be the lifestyle.
Yeah.
Because I figure that's the best way to share a message is live it, be it. And because you'll have more influence if you love. I mean, that's what the Bible says. You'll know my disciples by the love that they show each other.
Yeah.
So it's like what we do is more powerful than what we say we believe or what we do. And I think that's where it starts. Is just if we just could get people to say, hey, just actually be what Jesus said to be. Do what Jesus said to do. Jesus said love people. He said help them, reach out to them, share me with them. But, share it in a way that it's almost like, they always said, the saying was, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. But I used to work with horses, and I used to build corrals and stuff for one of my bosses. And in every stall, in every corral, they would put in the corner a big old salt block. And the reason why, because the horses wouldn't get thirsty. So, but when they would go lick that block, what happens? You would create a thirst. So I believe that if we would just live the life, live the example, it'll literally create a thirst for a good life, a God life, a positive life. It's like, wow, I had a guy one time years ago, why are you always happy? He would ask me, I was a welder and as a kid, and I had just gotten saved, just got married. He's like, you're always happy. And I'm like, I'm not always happy, but I feel, but I have a reason why. And so one day the boss, everybody's sitting around there, and I got, of course they would bring me in to share why I am happy.
Yeah.
And so I figured the greatest testimony was when they got to see your life. Because they see you when you're going through stuff. They see you when you're battling through things. And yet, if you're still positive, you're still going through, you're still pressing on, you're not giving up, you're not quitting, you're not running away, you still we fall, we get up. We mess up, we ask forgiveness, we repent, we get up, we go on. But I think that does more. It does more to show people that, hey, I'm real. Yeah. And then if they see that the goods that you got, it's like that salt lick block in the corner. They're like, I think I want to know more about what you believe.
That's like my little saying.
Yes, right there. You got them all over the place, man. Discover
the word. What's the long sentence?
Oh, your best today needs to be your even better tomorrow.
That's so we have to show them how to be better.
Yeah. And what's the best way to show someone to be better?
Live it. Be the example.
Be the example. Exactly.
So we need to be the example. We need to love more.
Yeah.
We need to show people, even people that are confused about their identity.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I think that's the whole idea is that, my best man at my wedding was my wife's uncle. And when I first met him, I didn't know, but he was homosexual. He'd accepted Jesus, got out of the lifestyle for 4 or 5 years, and then some things happened in his life, and he slipped, and he went back to the lifestyle for about 1.5 years. And I remember he got AIDS. And I remember visiting him because I'd go visit him and I'd pray for him because, I loved him and he was our family. And here's what he told me on his deathbed with a little bit of air in his voice. He says, Joseph, tell them it's a lie. Here was a man that was dying of AIDS from living a homosexual lifestyle. On his deathbed, as I'm praying with him right close to before he died, he said, Joseph, tell them it's a lie.
Yeah.
See, at the end, everybody will know the truth.
The truth will set you free.
But the problem was at the end, it's usually too late.
Too late, yeah.
You get the revelation of the truth, but you don't get the lifestyle. And he realized at the very end of his life that he probably could have had an amazing life. He would have just stayed with the Lord, but he, like he told me, he says, tell them it's a lie. Because what happens is when you accept a lie, you got to get rid of the truth.
Yeah.
And then you got to try to make the lie your truth.
Now you're stacking lies on top of lies.
And then now you're stuck.
Yeah.
And you get stuck in that life and it'll destroy you.
And everyone else around you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Is that why you love pastoring so much? Is that where the passion comes in to be able to show people like, hey, the truth is here. The Bible says it. Yeah. And you can help people like change their lives.
Yeah.
Show them a different way.
That's what I love because I am an encourager. I love to inspire people. And, not everybody, I don't see them all the time, but I hear, Facebook especially, oh my God. Or I see people that have come through my life.
You're still on Facebook? Oh, that's for the old people.
Yeah, I haven't figured out TikTok and all that stuff yet. I'm still learning.
Oh, that's crazy.
But, the thing, my passion is to see someone literally turn their life around.
Yeah.
Because based on what they believe, and then see them grow. To see them have a family, to see them go out and buy a house, to see them starting having children, and then all of a sudden to see their children grow up and start going to school and then college. And then it's like all of a sudden it's like you see the impossible become possible.
Yeah.
And that's what I love. To me, that's the magic in everything. And it's sort of like that's what the Lord did is he loved to bring people back to life.
Yeah.
And he loved to give them another chance, and he loved to send them out and say, go out and do what I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why I love it.
Yeah. So you, so a couple of years ago, you started you went back to school.
Yeah.
What inspired you to go back to school, and what
it's a funny story, but here's what happened. So when I was in school, I was kicked out of school as a kid. Age. And because I'd almost killed a kid and they weren't going to let me back in. But yet my family, nobody ever graduated. Nobody ever did anything. And I had this idea that I wanted to at least get a high school diploma. And so I tried, and I finally convinced the school to let me go back the 12th grade year. So they figured it out. They said I had all the credits, that I could barely have enough credits to graduate. So I did. I went 12th grade. I took 11th and my 12th grade, all the classes. And what happened was about 3 or 4 days before I was going to graduate. Now, the principal, he did not like me. He made it known that he didn't like me. And I really, honestly, didn't give him anything to like, because I was a sore, a pain in his, you know.
Yeah,
I was not a good guy for him. And so what happened was I ended up going back 3 days before we graduated. And I have the cap gown. I got the pictures. I got the class rings. I got everything. And then all of a sudden, the principal's name was Mr. Watson. He busts in and he's a big old guy from West Virginia. He busts into the auditorium where we're practicing, and he yells out real loud, and because he did it to embarrass me, because he would do stuff like that. He was like, Mr. Lephiew, come here. I need to talk to you. And he did it loud so like everybody could hear. And he says, well, they added the points, your points wrong, your credits wrong. And he says, you're a quarter of a credit short. And he says, therefore, you can't graduate, you can't walk, so you might as well step out of the group, and you can go to summer school and maybe graduate in the summer or next year. And I had tried so hard, I lost it. Like ripped the gown off, grabbed the cap, slapped him in the face with it, threw the ring across the room, and took off. So I had such an ugly mindset around education up until I think it was 58, and I had a stroke. And when I had the stroke, all of a sudden, the thoughts of death were all around me, because the doctors told me that I would more than likely have a heart attack and die in the next 3 days. So when someone has a real near-death experience, you start thinking about all the things about life, like what you didn't do, what you didn't accomplish, and things that you didn't think were important, but now they're important. So all of a sudden, what came to my mind was, if I live, I'm going to go back to school. Because, see, I was smart, but I just, you know, I had some bad things inside of me.
Yeah.
And so when I had the stroke and I lived past the 3 days, I was released from the hospital. I said, the first thing I did was I went down, I found a Christian, Arizona Christian University down the street from our church. I went down, and there's an organization, Primus University. I called them and I said, I want to get my diploma. So I started out and I got my bachelor's, and eventually the next year I got my master's, and then went on and eventually got my doctorate degree.
Yeah.
And I think there's a motivational speaker his name is Drucker. He wrote a book one time because his teacher, she told him how dumb he was and he would never be anything. And he wrote a book. I can't remember what it was called, but he basically wrote like this: "You were wrong, Mrs. So-and-so." And I thought I was going to write a book going, "You were wrong, Mr. Watson," because Mr. Watson believed I was no good.
Yeah.
I was nothing but a mess, and I'd be trouble my whole life. And, you know, and it's unfortunate, but, you know, that's sometimes as a young person, you have the wrong people speaking in your life. And I decided that day, because I said, if I'm going to die, I want to make sure there's some things that I want to do. And that was one, that I wanted to die with a degree. And so I thought, I did it.
And now you have 3, I think.
Yeah, I got 3 of them, yeah.
And now you're Dr. Joseph.
I know,
Lephiew.
Dr. Joseph Lephiew. Now I'm looking at another one right now. So
What's the next one?
it's psychology.
Oh, so like to get that way you can do more counseling stuff.
Yeah. Just really more learn about why we do the things we do, because I'm fascinated. Because it's
you
like
can dive deep into the.
Well, you know what I found is, especially being a pastor in church, and even looking at my own life, going, here I know all this stuff about God, and yet I still got issues.
Yeah.
I still got some problems, you know.
Yeah.
And then you wonder, and a lot of it has to do with the way we think and believe. And a lot of stuff has to do with stuff that was given to us when we were kids, experiences, beliefs.
All of it does.
So I've always been fascinated, because I would see in church everybody loving God, praising, singing, dancing, but then on Monday and Tuesday they were messed up. Come Sunday, they're all happy again, shouting, dancing, you know, the same. So I seen like the cycle.
Yeah.
And I thought there's kind of something wrong there.
Yeah.
And so that's when I began to dive in and find out it's all about mindsets.
It's all about
Everything is about the way you think.
the whole mindset.
Exactly.
Take the beer out of the house.
Yeah, exactly.
No alcohol in the house.
Yeah.
So you went to school. So something else you do is throughout the years you and Yvonne have been entrepreneurs. What's that like to be an entrepreneur and a pastor? You know, because sometimes there's a stigmatism, like there's a stigma, like, hey, you can't do both. And
well, you remember how you said how like people would judge you and stuff. We got judged by an organization that we were a part of because they had a belief that you could only do one.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a pastor, but we're broke. I can't pay the bills
because you only as much as money's coming in.
Whatever comes in is there, and I'm like, I didn't want to be a pastor, you know, because first of all, my great grandfather was a pastor, and he was broke, and I seen he was abused by the church people, and I'm like, that's the last thing. And I even told God, I will not be a pastor. I want to be a businessman. I want to be a multimillionaire. I want to do real estate. That was what I wanted.
Yeah.
And you know, I believe that there's a scripture that says, "Man makes the plans, but God orders the steps."
Yeah.
I believe that there's nothing wrong with being wealthy. There's nothing wrong with real estate or any of those things. But I believe that everybody has a distinct calling. And even though I still want to have wealth, I still want to have finances, I still want to do things, I want to have things. But I knew and I could sense deep down that God had called me for something different. And I remember battling, you know, between real estate and a Bible. Real estate, Bible, real estate, Bible. And I remember I was separated from Yvonne. I was going overseas for another tour. And I finally put my real estate books up. And I said, I realized that this is my calling.
Yeah.
And, you know, I would help other people create wealth. I would help other people to go after their dreams. But I knew what I was called to do. And it probably has to do with all the stuff I came up out of. But yeah, God wanted to use me to help his people. And, you know, I still like real estate. I'm fascinated by business. You know, we do business, but, you know, the main reason is because it was just so that we could have things that the church couldn't provide for us. So, and I finally found some people in my life, some real true mentors that did both. And so like you can be a king because you're a king and I'm a priest, but you could do king and priest. You know, you can have dual because we know that David did it all. There's multiple people in the Bible that did it all.
Yeah.
You know, so but again, you know, it's like you have all these people that have beliefs, and you know, the sad thing is most of them have nothing to back it up other than what someone told them. And it's just been passed down. Like, this is it. This is how it's going to be, you know?
Yeah.
You know, for years we didn't have a TV, you know, because we called it the one-eyed devil.
Yeah.
Well, once I got free from that, we went and bought the biggest TV ever. You know, it was sad. All we do, we like zombies sit in front of that TV because we were told. So what you do is you have people that go so far right, and then when they want to make a course correct, then they go all the way to the other side.
Yeah.
And you have to find that happy medium.
It takes
for
years
your life.
to get to the back.
It does, yeah. So you got to find the balance.
Yeah. So today you got like you do some jewelry.
To do jewelry, you know, we do diamonds. I'm what they call a diamondeer.
Yeah.
I sell diamonds.
Is that what it's called, the diamond?
Yeah, I'm a diamondeer. Yeah, that's the kind of the term for it. But
yeah.
So my wife does some designing. But yeah, so we've been able to do it. Like we've done it to provide for one. I love to help people, so now I give a much better deal.
Yeah,
I help a lot of young people.
If you need some wedding rings, they get really good deals.
That's my specialty is engagement rings.
Yeah, and it's all real stuff.
It's all real, all gold, all done. Well, you know, it's because I would see these, you know, in the diamond industry, the minimum markup is 600%. So when you go to the mall, you see these jewelry stores, and they're saying 80% off sale. That means 80% off of
the 600,
500 or 600% markup.
They're still making 500%.
They're still making 500%. So what happens is people actually believe they're getting a deal.
Oh, that's everywhere.
Everywhere.
That's every industry. Yeah.
But, you know, in the jewelry industry, there is no zero zilch regulation. There's nobody regulating it. So it is what it is. And, you know, typically you can sell it for whatever you want to sell it for.
There's just kind of like a standard, like what this guy's doing, you got to do what that guy's doing.
Yeah. Well, we have like in cars, they have the blue book. We have one for diamonds. It's called the Rappaport.
So Rappaport,
yeah. So you can kind of gauge what it really is
it's
worth.
like the Beckett.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if they have that still.
No.
Rebecca.
The blue book.
Yeah.
The blue book for cars and stuff.
So you do the jewelry, the diamonds.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that's what attracted me to you guys was when I had met you guys was you guys were doing business.
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't have not, you know, business is different from everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you know, when you see someone doing different things, you know, because like you said, there's a lot of small churches that are really struggling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you're a full-time pastor and you have, say, 50 people, which I think that's like the average church or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something
It
like
is
that.
in America.
That's like no money.
Mm-mm.
So that means the pastor's getting a stipend, say, $800, $1,000 a week, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that's like barely to survive. So you got to figure out a way to survive.
Yeah.
But then you have the people that judge the pastor for doing it. Oh, well, you
Yeah.
know. So, but they're going to work.
Yeah. Well, it's like the doctor of the Lord. You know, it's like people say all the time, like, you have people all the time talking about pastors because they have, some of these pastors that have like, you know, beautiful homes and beautiful cars. But nobody complains about the doctors, the lawyers, the political people that have all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, you know, somehow people have got this idea that a pastor's supposed to be like broke.
Yeah.
You know, and it's because they don't understand the Bible. They read the Bible and they think Jesus was poor and broke. He was not poor and broke.
Yeah.
The guy wore clothes that were like Versace. I mean, his stuff, his material. See, people don't study the Bible. They just believe what people tell them. Mm-hmm. When Jesus said, I didn't have a place to lay my head, it wasn't that he was homeless. I mean, the guy had a banker. Mm-hmm. You know, Judas, he was the bookkeeper. I mean, all through the Bible, God had money. When he was born, they brought gold and silver and frankincense, and they laid it at his little where the baby where he was at in the manger. Mm-hmm. And people just read all this crazy stuff, and they don't have no clue that God was not Jesus was not poor.
Well, I think they only read the part where he started turning over tables.
Yeah. Well, what he said was he didn't want all them people doing like selling these birds for sacrifice in the church.
Yeah.
Because that's what they were doing. In other words, he was against that because that was not what the church, he says, my house is to be a house of prayer. Mm-hmm. And it was just supposed to be about his business, not your business.
Yeah.
So if you turn the church into your business, that's a whole nother ball game.
Yeah. I always envision it like a bunch of people at tables, like gambling and just doing like illegal activities and
selling everything from
just doing stupid stuff.
Yeah.
And you figure they're going to do that and not give to anyone anyways.
Well, they're on there. If you think about what they were doing, as he was saying, was they were all in there to make their own.
They
weren't there really to build the kingdom or build the house of God. They were there for their own greed, their own monetary gain.
Yeah, I was telling someone because they were talking about corporate greed and I was saying, well, everything you buy is from a corporation.
That's right.
Your wife works for a corporation.
Yeah.
The phone you're on is for a corporation. And I'm like, think about, because people, the judgment starts coming in again, right? Mm-hmm. Just like, and it stems back to that time there where he started flipping up tables.
Yeah.
Because everyone goes back to those scriptures.
Yeah. I think that, you're never going to get away from people and their judgments. It's like, somebody asked me one day, because I was in business, I was making money, and they came up to me and says, what are you doing for the poor?
Yeah.
And I said, well, my number one agenda for the poor is I got to make sure that number one, I'm not one of them.
Yeah.
And they got so mad at me, and I wasn't saying it to be indignant, but I'm saying, if I'm poor too, mm-hmm. I can't help anybody. Mm-hmm. So you have to take care of yourself, because think about it. How are you going to be able to do anything for anybody else if you don't do anything for yourself too?
Yeah.
It's like, so you give everything, but you have no money, you have no food, you have no gas, you got nothing, mm-hmm. but you feel good about yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're all going to be selfish in some way, but like you said, it's using the selfishness to build ourselves and then using that tool to help others.
See, I don't even see that as selfishness. I see that as that's wisdom.
Well, yeah, but people, I'm just saying it's selfish. Technically, it's being selfish.
Well, you're taking care of you.
Yeah, which you have to.
Yes, you have to.
We have to do it first.
Think about this. You can't help anybody in health if you don't get healthy.
It's like someone, I remember like this is years ago, someone's like, will you die for your kids? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I'll kill before I die.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to say I'll die for my kids, right? Because if I can stay alive, then I can be better for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like that whole theory is like, yeah, you want to protect your family and your children, but like the whole theory, like people come up with these sayings, like, think about what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, I heard people say, I would die for the Lord. Well, you know what? Forget about dying for him. How about live for him?
Yeah, because
that's harder.
Like, you die and you're done.
That's done. You're nothing.
You're nothing. Like,
yeah.
So you die for whoever.
Live for him for 40 years. That's a whole nother ballgame.
Yeah, like fight for what it is, you know, instead of dying for something. Like dying is just quitting.
It's easy.
It's easy.
Exactly right. It's like boom.
So I like it. Pastor, doctor, entrepreneur, got the diamonds.
Yep.
I'm excited. I think you're gonna sell a lot of diamonds.
I think so too.
I hope so.
I am.
Because then you can buy me something. Christmas is coming up.
Christmas is coming up.
Christmas is coming.
You want a grill?
Yeah, get it. No. So, okay, one last thing before we end.
Okay.
Is what's a piece of advice to, you know, a young leader coming up, whether he's an entrepreneur, he or she, there's only two genders, he or she, entrepreneur, leader, just that person that's coming up, you know, what's that piece of advice you'd give them?
You know, I tell a lot of, especially young people, is to make an investment in themselves. Make an investment into their thinking. In other words, whether it's, you know, I've taken so many courses on personal development, and, you know, went back, got all my degrees, because the thing is you if you invest in you, then you can produce. You can produce a whole lot more out of your life. Because the idea is that you're not going to change your mindset. You're not going to change your thinking by just wanting to change your thinking. You're going to have to be introduced to different ways of thinking.
Yeah.
So whether that's getting around people that are a lot smarter than you, that are a lot further than you. I mean, just being around you, I grow because you know things that I don't know. Or if I get around someone who's smarter or wealthier or educated, you know, I had a mentor that gave me an experiment one day, and because I felt really superior because I had a large church in the inner city. And when he told me, I want you to find the wealthiest part of the city and get around there. And I found some things out about my life that I never would have known had I not done that. What I found out when I went over, did this for 1 year, I found out that number one, I was intimidated by educated people because I wasn't educated. I was intimidated by wealthy people because I wasn't wealthy. And here's the crazy one. I was intimidated by white people, Caucasian people. And it's because predominantly where my church was at is we were all Mexican, Hispanic, Black, you know, those Native Americans, but no Caucasian people. And I didn't realize because I was intimidated by all these different groups of people. And it was just a belief, a mindset. And the more that I began to go there, they started shattering, they started breaking. And I realized I'm just as good as anybody, just as smart as anybody, and has nothing to do with my color, has nothing. And I literally, my income went up. Everything changed about my life when I was introduced to some things that I had beliefs that I didn't even know that were there. And that's why you want to invest, whether it's taking some classes, read some books, podcasts. You want to constantly be putting stuff in you because that's how we grow.
Yeah. There it is, guys. Invest in yourself. Well, thank you for your time. I love you.
My pleasure. I love you too.
I see you like 10 times a week.
I know exactly. You're going to see me a little bit more here.
Yeah. But
I'm headed to your house after this.
Yeah. This is good because some people don't know what it's like, you know? So thank you. And to everyone else watching, thank you.
Thank you.
Be blessed.
Yes. God bless.